Sonic games, Sonic games. Everyone loves Sonic games. If you don't like Sonic games, then the fuck are you doing here? Go file your taxes, Aaron Hansen. Anything is possible when your franchise is legally considered to be a national tragedy. 2D platformers, 3D platformers, racing games, visual novels, party games, comics, and whatever the hell you consider Sonic Jam on the Gamecom to be. I never knew they made a video game about cancer. With a franchise as iconic and recognizable as Sonic the Hedgehog, most of his games are incredibly well known. Keyword being most. Yeah, surprisingly, there are some Sonic games that are not really remembered by both the general public and the fanbase. And even though it's been a debate in the Sonic fandom for a while now, I think I might have just found the most forgotten Sonic game. Wait, just hear me out, stop, don't break into my house. I know what you're thinking, just stop, put down the gun. Look, I know I probably gave half of you PTSD from the mere mention of Sonic 4, but just hear me out. I'm not talking about Sonic 4 Episode 1, since that game is kinda shit. I'm talking about Sonic 4 Episode 2, its sequel, which, out of all the games I've seen in the franchise, this is the one that's talked about the least. Yeah, there were some people talking about it, but out of all Sonic games, I've rarely seen this one ever get discussed, especially in comparison to its older brother. And it certainly hasn't gotten the respect it deserves, only being seen as mid or still Sonic 4 by general gamers, critics, and the fanbase alike, left in the dark for years to come. But I say this disrespect has gone on long enough! Things have to change! You can't lead a horse to water without breaking a few eggs. Judge me not for my thighs, for the one-eyed man is worth two in the bush. If they build it, I will come! And if you got a problem with that, buddy, well then welcome to the Hotel California! Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know anymore. This was my first Sonic game, so over the years I've been experiencing and re-experiencing it over and over again. Am I biased? A little bit. But I do genuinely think this game has merits a lot of people don't give it credit for. So join me today as we rediscover Sonic 4 Episode 2, the long-forgotten Sonic game. Cue intro. Let's start off with the graphics, and whoa, this is really good! These graphics are beautiful. Not just in general, but in relation to the first game, you can truly see how good it looks. Especially considering that Episode 1's graphics, I've seen literal tumors and somehow this looks worse. Plastic grass, bizarre animations, horrible contrast between the 3D models and the 2D background, Sonic breaking down on the atomic level every time he runs. By God, this game has everything! And by everything, I mean being complete shit! Episode 2 clearly turned trash into treasure, it seems. Levels this time are fully 3D and they are stunning. They got rid of the stupid cell shading and instead actually built in a proper lighting system that looks good. And finally, Sonic actually has a good model that looks normal in most situations, instead of a model that looks like it's physically erasing itself every time he takes a jog. For a game from 2012, this ages remarkably well. It even arguably looks better than the new 2.5D game Sonic Superstars. Before we get into the levels, let's quickly mention the controls. Coming from Episode 1's horrid physics, they feel much improved here. Jumps feel heavier, the rolling feels smoother, and you can build a lot more speed off ramps. While not as great and momentum based as the classic games, it still feels pretty good to control. But as you can see, 2's a lucky number, as Tails has been reintroduced with the new gimmick of this game, character combos. By pressing the action button, you have two possible combos that the two characters can perform. The rolling combo, where Sonic and Tails fuse their spin dashes to form a huge ball of death that kills anything it touches, but it slows down with each consecutive hit you take. And then there's the flying combo, which has two forms. The regular flying combo, where Tails carries you upwards regularly like he always does, and the underwater combo, where Tails finally grows a pair and carries you through water indefinitely. Needless to say, I very much like these combos. Using them to your advantage allows you to obtain shortcuts and speed throughout the level, like any good Sonic game. game. I especially like it when you use the rolling combo off a slope and the forward momentum just propels you into the sky. Since I finished talking about the general graphics, let's switch things over and talk about each individual zone. This game has 5 zones: Sylvania Castle, White Park, Oil Desert, Sky Fortress, and the Death Egg Mark II. Each stage does a good job at standing out as its own unique thing instead of being a blatant ripoff like the first episode. Well, Sky Fortress is the exception, but it does look good at sunset, so I'll give it the pass. Sylvania Castle takes the role of first level, and for that I'd say it's pretty good. It does a good job at teaching you both 2D Sonic basics and game-specific mechanics. It also functions as the game's standout water level, though this won't be the last time we'll see water in the game. And even though the popular take is that water and Sonic don't mix, mainly due to one level I'm looking at you, Labyrinth Zone, you sick fuck! I think the level does a good job at balancing both the water and the normal platforming to make sure the level still remains consistently fun. Another gimmick are the ruins. There are some large rustic totems you can fucking top like dominoes, large pillars you can either homing attack or rolling combo into, or platforms you can only move in certain directions with the homing attack. At times, these can get really creative and help the platforming. For the first boss act, Dr. Eggman pulls out a giant sunflower mecha. It's a pretty simple boss, just hit him in the cockpit and dodge the stems from attacking you. It is a good boss, but it kinda becomes pointless when you realize you can just spam the flying combo over and over to dodge attacks and hit him in the cockpit early. And that's Sylvania Castle. A good zone with a good boss equals a good first impression. White Park, being the second zone, continues, expands, and adds onto the formula set in Sylvania Castle, as any good second world should. I especially like its aesthetics. The snowy carnival theme of the first act and the large roller coasters you roll and dash past are iconic in the second act. So good, it even got center stage in IDW. The snow also plays a factor in the first act, where you escape falling avalanches and 69 yourself really deep into it. That might not be the best vocabulary. The third act is a water level. Foreshadowing. As you basically have to go through a gauntlet of shit without losing your breath. Don't worry though. Bubbles appear more in this game than police at my doorstep after they heard about the 87 children in my basement. We'll never find them. And now we come to the boss, in which, holy shit, is that Metal Sonic? That's right, Metal's back, baby, and better than ever. This is the first time he's ever reappeared as a main rival since Sonic Heroes, dear god. But now he's back with the power of purple. This is the first of 3 encounters with Metal Sonic, and out of all of them, I actually think this one is the best. Your goal is to hit Metal as much as you can while you dodge his attacks and switch between roller coaster rails. It's one hell of a spectacle and a damn good fight. It's probably one of my favorite Metal Sonic moments in general. Next is Oil Desert, and yup, it truly does live up to its name. Compared to the other zones, there's really not that much to talk about here, so I'll really relegate this section to talking about the zone-specific gimmicks. First off, let's talk about the
It's everywhere. Get used to it.
There's a couple of sand-related gimmicks. I mean, no duh, it's a desert. There are the sandstorms that push you in a certain direction, the rising sand in Act 3, and the quicksand in all acts. Now, what pairs best with sand? Why, kids, it's oil. Now, there are also, get this, gimmicks relating to oil in Oil Desert. I know, I didn't believe it at first, but it's true. There are the oil slides and oil platforms that are lit on fire by some enemies. And that's it. Clearly, the balance between the oil and the desert clearly isn't equal. The boss of this act is a huge scrap mecha that throws boxes at you to dodge until you reach the top of this hull. Then you rolling combo into Johnny Big Feet over here and boom, boss done. This is easily the weakest boss out of all of them. Slow, boring, and when it gets good, it just ends. Mediocre end to a decent zone. Sky Fortress is weird. It's easily my favorite zone, yet it takes most from the classic Sonic 4 trope where the developers go, "We are going to steal." The first act is an evolution of Sky Chase from Sonic 2, but instead of making it a boring auto-scroller, they actually went out of their way to make it interesting. As well as attacking enemies, you need to break crates before they push you to your death, speedy sections where you dodge rockets, and even a small platform enemy sequence where the tornado actually isn't present for the short time. It still is an auto-scroller, so it falls through the trappings of other auto-scrollers, but this one is easily the best Sky Chase level in the entire series. The next 2 acts are classic platforming levels where you dodge flame exhausts and run on walls in a semi-3D section. But the best part about this zone is the music! I've neglected to talk about the music until now, but I might as well. You might expect me to say that the music isn't good, and I'd say you're right, it's not good. It's great! Almost every track in this game complements the level it's in perfectly, and the melodies are just so nice. Some aren't winners, in fact, some are pretty bad. Well, there's that too. Sorry. I had a bit of a cough there. But majority of the themes in this game are just great. I'm telling you, this soundtrack is honest to God the most underrated in the series. Please check it out. Alright, that takes care of the music. What's next? Oh yeah, the Sky Fortress boss. This is an air fight with Metal Sonic, and it is a struggle. You need to dodge overhead lasers, defeat enemies while dodging said lasers, and dodge uncomfortably positioned rockets to get a shot at hitting metal. This is probably one of the hardest bosses in the game, but not unfair, and I think it's great fun. But now we transition into the final zone, the Death Egg Mark II. And for a final zone, it's really mid. The majority of the first act is just straight lines. Admittedly pretty cool gravity-defying straight lines, but it's still straight lines at the end of the day. There's also no platforming, so it's also really easy. The standout part of the level is clearly Metal Sonic. The first is his cameo with Eggman as he charges a giant Frieza-Ah death bomb on Sonic, and his next and final appearance in the game is his rematch race with Sonic, which he loses really anticlimactically. Goodbye, my goat. You made this game even better. The final boss is clearly the key part of the zone, as you fight the literal heart of the Death Egg in a multi-tiered gauntlet, testing every skill and combo the game has taught you. This is a perfect final boss, assuming you don't get the Chaos Emeralds to just cheese it. And how do you collect the giant glowing rock candy? That's right, you need to go to the special stages, found by getting 50 rings and jumping into the big ring at the end of the stage. And unfortunately, they're the half pipes. Yes, the most overused version of the special stages in the entirety of the series. Like, you could have done something, anything else other than this. But I can't complain too much, since out of all the half pipes in the series, this is easily one of the best. The structure works the same way as any other half pipe. You run and get as many rings as you can to reach the quota to pass a checkpoint while avoiding obstacles, which are the bombs. But along with that, they introduce some new mechanics, the most important being the boost. You press the X button to go fast, but it costs your ability to turn, making split-second decisions much harder at the cost of being able to score some extra rings. There are also the ring gates. You have to collect a certain number of glowing rings before time runs out, and if you do, you get an even bigger pool of bonus rings. This can be a lifesaver if you're just ever so short of that quota. There's also the tether, bonding both Sonic and Tails together. If used wisely, you can get a lot more rings on different paths one can access. Finally, there's the shock cubes. I don't like the shock cubes. Getting all the emeralds gets you Super Sonic, functioning like he always does. But there's those secret bosses that's really all you get. It's a good reward, but I wish they give a little bit more of an incentive to get the emeralds. And that's it. That's Sonic for Episode 2. In short, I believe it is a good game. Held back for more appreciation because of its name and its legacy, being a sequel to Episode 1. Overall, I don't think it deserves to be forgotten, because it has merits that should be remembered and at least respected, because I believe it to be a very polished experience all around, with a solid framework. If you see this video, I hope you can at least give this game another shot. If you don't like it, that's fair. But the one thing I want people to take away from this is that this game deserves to have a second chance at life, to be taken out of the darkness and to be a forgotten game no more. This is Hipster, signing out. No!